Red yeast rice extract is back on trend. It feels like it's been growing all through 2025 and the start of this year. I've had a handful of coaches talking about it or folks being recommended it so far. So, which is actually quite a lot because we are a small business and this is a small, like New Zealand, Australia. So, clearly trendy. It comes and goes. This is not the first time it's been on trend, but it does feel like it is getting more momentum. And I have significant gripes, you might say. It has been eating at me all last year. So this is the video to just quickly tackle all this. And if you do have questions or disagreements, then I would love to hear it. So, on point, why do we not like, or why don't we like red yeast rice extract? Well, red yeast rice extract, you are using it, or most people are using it to help lower their LDL and general cholesterol management. The reasoning for that is because it contains the exact same compound that you have in prescription Lovastatin, but it's in a over-the-counter. You can go to a pharmacy or whatever and get it without a prescription form. However, the over-the-counter, well, actually, let's just step through. We're going to have kind of like 4 main points. And first main point is that the over-the-counter, like what you get in red yeast rice extracts, 9 times out of 10 is not standardized for that bioactive component. So say you get a 600 milligram tub, you have no idea how potent it is. You have no idea how much of the active ingredient that that Lovastatin ingredient called monacolin K, you have no idea how much of that is in your capsule. That's well established in peer-reviewed research. There's multiple studies on this. This isn't just a cherry pick of one study, and these are studies testing on the market products. One was like 37 products, one was 12. Like this is quite established. It's a real quality control issue in the industry. So you have no idea how much monacolin K is in it. Therefore, how could you predict your potency? Well, you can't predict your potency without knowing that. Therefore, the dosing on the product, the guideline dosing, it means nothing because you can't derive that off anything. Number 2, say you had a monacolin K standardized one, which is very rare, but they do exist. And say it was actually true to its claim, which some of them have been true to claim, but many are not. And again, this is demonstrated in that testing in these review articles or in this research that they've tested and shown that many of these standardized ones are not true to label. But if it is true to label, well, you have a couple other compounds or groups of compounds in red yeast rice extract that increase the absorption of that monacolin K. And that can be a reason why many people say that red yeast rice is great, because you have a less of the active ingredient to get the same sort of effect. Well, we'll tackle that downward, but it doesn't make it better. What it does make it is more variable, because we've got no idea how much of these polyphenols and triterpenes, which enhance the bioaccessibility, we don't know how much is in there. You don't know how enhanced your specific product is. Therefore, you've increased the unknowns in your dosing. So you don't know how much monacolin K is in it, so you don't know what to dose it. You don't know how amplified the absorption of that monacolin K is, so you don't know how to dose it. 2 factors, big concern points. Third concern point, red yeast rice extract. Yeast being a key thing. So it's a yeast that is grown on rice. With that comes a known, well-documented toxin. It's called citrinin. Citrinin is not rare in red yeast rice extracts. It is common. Like it is the norm to have this. And in the EU and other progressive countries like Japan, they actually pay attention to these sort of things. They have standards on, hey, you cannot have this amount of citrinin in your food. Red yeast rice extracts reliably, like 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, like it'll vary based on your sample size, but a lot have been tested again. They're well exceeding those limits, and most of these products are therefore not compliant with regulations in the EU. Unfortunately, New Zealand, Australia, we don't have these sort of regulations, not because of lack of concern, but because of lack of action. The point being that there is a very good chance, roll of the dice, 5 sides out of 6, that it's got a high dose of a known toxin. We don't want that known toxin. It has known impacts on kidney health and other organs that are already at risk in people that have high cholesterol, which is the people that are taking red yeast rice extract. That's probably you if you're thinking about red yeast rice extract or already using it. And then the last one, so there's a general narrative like, okay, well, red yeast rice extract, it's more potent than Lovastatin at lower doses. And it's like, well, okay, if you do have the same amount of monacolin K in it, then yes, it would be. You'd have to know that, and we tackled that previously. That's a big issue. But if you did have the same amount, then yes, it would be more potent on that receptor, and that is due to the improved bioaccessibility. But that doesn't make it a lower side effect profile to potency. All it, like the exact same pathway is being used. You're not doing a different action to what you're doing with the prescription drug. So the same side effects are seen at the same level of action. So in order to achieve the same sort of LDL reduction, you get the same sort of side effects. Now, there are some good arguments made around low dose statin use. I'm not going to disagree on that. I think there is a place for low-dose statin use. However, that is a medical opinion. That's something that is outside my realm. But this isn't a novel use of low-dose statin use. What this is using less of the active ingredient ingested to get more of the active ingredient, monacolin K, at the receptor sites that we're targeting, the HMG CoA reductase. You can look it up if you like. And the point is that you're getting the same activation point to achieve the same end result. And it's that activation point that also results in the side effect profiles of prescription statins. Therefore, you are not reducing your side effect profile or side effect risk because you're doing the same thing. I hope that makes sense. But you're doing the exact same thing, just with less knowns, more variables. It's just a mess, and like risk of toxic components coming alongside. There is no place for your red yeast rice extract when we have so many other better tools. If you want to go that route of using monacolin K, that statin-related mechanism, then go to your doctor. And it's cheap, like there's no cost argument on that. In New Zealand, we're fully funded anyway, and they love to hand out those prescriptions like candy, in my experience. Not saying how a doctor works or anything like that. However, we also have multiple other approaches. The point of this video is not to tackle on that, but just things to keep in mind. Lipid Max, that takes a pulling therapy approach, and that is combined with citrus bergamot. And then IRE has things citrus bergamot, astaxanthin, and good ingredients. So there are other ingredients that can work on cholesterol, and they do it in a less sudden, but still quite effective rate. Therefore, like within the same sort of effectiveness of you could take, say, Lipid Max, we generally see effects between 1 to 2 tubs of use. Like, so 1 to 2, 3 months, you get your blood work done again. We definitely should be seeing progress. If we don't, hit me up. We can problem solve. IRE, similar thing. 1 to 2 months of use, we see blood work changes, and that is in bodybuilding population, or even in just general New Zealand population, our customers, we see this blood work all the time. So there are other options. Also talk to your doctor, because high cholesterol is a medical issue. What we do is just support healthy, normal levels of cholesterol. Not trying to tackle medical things here. This is educational only, and supplements are just to support normal dietary and health, not as a medical thing. And none of what I've said here was for medical use. Talk to your doctor, talk to your doctor, talk to your doctor.